Okay, can we start?
Yes, sure, sir.
Any doubts? So we have done with the first three topics: emergence of sociology, and then scope of the subject, and also we have discussed about sociology and common sense. So the three topics from the first chapter is over. If you have any doubts, we can discuss that maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and we can move to the second chapter. Yeah, all of you turn off your mic and video. In case if you want to ask anything, you can turn on and then ask. Okay. So today we will be starting with this particular topic, sociology as a science. So this is from your chapter 2. Okay. The first topic, sociology as science, not A here, sociology as science. Or if A is there, still there is no problem, I'm saying. So sociology as science. So here the topic is given like this: science, scientific method and critique. So we need to see what you mean by science, and can we understand sociology as science? If so, how, in what context we can see sociology as science, and what are the arguments against that, and what are the scientific methods that we will discuss later, and what are the main criticisms or the arguments against for sociology being science. So all these dimensions is what we are actually going to discuss. So we know what is sociology, we know in which context sociology emerged, and yesterday we have discussed about the sociology and common sense. We have developed a context. So here also what we will do is we will develop a context, why this particular question is there, why this particular debate is there, why this debate of sociology and science is there. Is sociology similar to science, or is sociology is different to science? Why this debate is there? That is the first thing that you need to understand. And if you understood that, then this question is going to be very simple. Then what we will do is we will explain what is science. Okay, so I'll tell you what is science, and then what we need to see is what are the arguments in favor for sociology being science, and then we will discuss the arguments against sociology being science, and then we will go for the conclusion. Exactly in the similar pattern we have discussed yesterday, sociology and common sense, where we discuss the context, then we discuss sociology and common sense, then the similarities, then the differences, then the conclusion. So almost the similar pattern is what we are following in almost all the question. So first we need to discuss about the context, and you already know the context, right? So first line what we will write, if you get any question from the first 2-3 chapters, the first line is always fixed, right? You will write the emergence of sociology. So you will write like sociology emerged in response to challenges posed before modernity in medieval Europe, right? So there we are discussing about medieval Europe, and we are talking about modernity, we are talking about the challenges, and we are also mentioning about emergence of sociology. So that single simple line is talking about everything that we have discussed in the context of emergence of sociology. So we discussed emergence of sociology, then what happened? We have discussed in the other 2 sessions, like since its emergence, the initial sociologist, they wanted to make it on the lines similar to natural science. Why they're stressing on natural science? Because if you need to get that initial legitimacy, sociology is relatively a very young discipline, emerged in 1838. So if you need to get that legitimacy, initial acceptance among the intellectuals, not only among the intellectuals, even among the common people, if you need to get that initial legitimacy, you need to say this is scientific. So initial sociologists wanted to make sociology very similar to natural science. Why? Mainly they were stressing on this initial legitimacy. They want to prove that sociology is also science. And if you remember, we discussed about social physics, right? So Auguste Comte or even Saint Simon even dreamt of social physics, which is similar to natural science physics. That is a science of society. So you can see initial sociologists, they were more oriented towards making sociology similar to natural science. They were so much inclined towards natural science, or people are so much obsessed with the natural science, not only the intellectuals, even the common people also. So that is why during the initial phase, the sociologist wanted to make sociology on the line similar to natural science. Okay, so in that context, what they did initially, they used the methods and perspectives directly from natural science. what all methods are used in natural science, for example, some quantitative methods, some statistical techniques, etc., which are used directly in sociology. So I hope you understood sociology emerged, relatively a very young discipline. Initially, after the emergence, the initial sociologists wanted to make it similar to natural science. So they used methods and perspectives directly from natural science, and in this context, the debate emerged or the discussion was emerged, right? What is that? Whether sociology is science or not. Can you use the methods and perspectives which is used in science readily or exactly in the same way in sociology? So this is the context. So I hope the context is clear for you. Sociology emerged. Initial sociologists wanted to make it similar to natural science. They used the methods and perspectives from natural science. So the questions were raised. Why? On what ground? The probability, the possibility of use of scientific methods in sociology. So the question was arised whether sociology is similar to science or not, or is sociology a science? So this is a question. Now, introduction, you will talk one or two lines about this context, and then we will try to answer. So what we need to now do is we need to explain what is science. Okay, so initially science is understood more in terms of a body of knowledge which conforms to two important ideals. One is, okay, my voice is clear, or is there any delay or lagging? Are we okay?
Sir, everything is perfect.
Okay. So initially science is understood more in terms of, a body of knowledge which conforms to the ideals of empiricism and also inductivism. What is inductivism? I have discussed yesterday. Inductivism means it is a method of theory building. I have told you before, in your +2 and all, you might have done experiments in physics lab, right? So that is actually inductive approach. What you do, you go to the lab, you measure the data on a particular investigation that you're going to conduct. So measurement of data is there, and then you will go for analysis of that data. Then you will go for interpretation of that. You may make tables, you may make charts, you may make diagrams, etc. And finally you come up with a theory, and then it will be tested also later. And once you test it, it will replicate the same result. Okay, that is what inductive approach. There is an alternate approach also, that is what you call as deductive approach, and this is what more suitable in case of social sciences. Like here, first you make a hypothesis. I've told you yesterday also this point, that suppose you are conducting a study on domestic violence. Instead of going and asking to everyone about the reasons and finally concluding, there is another approach. You make a hypothesis first, that domestic violence is because of alcoholism, and based on that hypothesis, then you conduct the study. This is what deductive approach. Inductive approach means nothing, no conclusions are initially made. Everything will be understood and made towards the end, after collecting data, after proper analysis, and then only proper interpretation is made. So that is a difference. And in science, inductive approach is mostly, or in fact, used. Empiricism means the actual reality, something which can be seen, okay, the empirical reality. So science is understood more in terms of, the body of knowledge which conforms to empiricism and inductivism. But that is initial understanding, but later science is understood more in terms of method of inquiry. Method of inquiry rather than body of knowledge. Rather than body of knowledge. What do you mean by this? It means actually the method of inquiry, if it is scientific, if it is based on evidence and reason, if it is rational, then you can call that body of knowledge as scientific. So how you conduct the inquiry, how you conduct the investigation, that is what you need to see. So initially science was understood more in terms of this empiricism, inductivism, etc. But later the definition of science changed, and science is understood more in terms of method of inquiry rather than simply in terms of body of knowledge which conforms to empiricism, inductivism, etc. So if the method of inquiry is scientific, then that body of knowledge could be considered as science. And some conditions for science were laid down. You just need to remember exactly the same, four or five condition only, very easy, and you need to write exactly the same. You don't want to do, or you don't want to add, you don't want to read anything for these topics. Okay, so the first point, inter-subject reliability, and then I'll explain all these. Quantifiability and then objectivity, and then theory building, theoretical orientation. So these are the one more we can add, that is testability, testing. Okay, so these are the 4 conditions which were laid down for any body of knowledge to become science. So these are the conditions for science. Inter-subject reliability means, you see, inter-subject, that means across subject. The thing that we are explaining, the defining, this, anything that you're considering should have the same meaning. That is what you mean by inter-subject reliability. Across the subject, the topic in question, the one which is in question should have the same meaning. For example, when you talk about oxygen, okay, oxygen is having the same meaning in biology, chemistry, physics, or for that matter anywhere. Nitrogen, right? All these concepts, carbon dioxide, etc., if you see, these are having the same meaning. That's what I mean by inter-subject reliability. The meaning is not changing. So across discipline there should be same meaning. That is what inter-subject reliability. Quantifiability means it has to be quantified. The scope has to be quantified. What you will study should be clearly specified. For example, it is crystal clear what biology will study, what physics will study, what chemistry will study, right? So there is a quantifiability there. The scope is defined precisely. Objectivity means whenever you conduct any investigation, there should not be any personal bias. And personal bias may give different interpretations. For example, in case of natural science, there is no possibility of personal bias. But in case of social science, like I've told you that domestic violence is because of alcoholism. It may be because of personal experience. It may be because of personal bias. The actual reason may be different. But you as a researcher might be facing the problem of domestic violence, and that may be because of alcoholism. So that personal bias may come. That I'll discuss later, but I'm saying, so objectivity means conduct the investigation without any personal bias. So that is also important when we discuss about science. Theoretical orientation, it is very simple. You have to make theory, explain through theories. Testing means once you've done this, testing and theory, it must be testable. That must be replicable. The validity and reliability will be questioned. So there has to be replicability. So I repeat, these are the 5 conditions, simple conditions. Inter-subject reliability means what? Across the subject, there should be same meaning. Quantifiability means what? The scope should be defined clearly. Objectivity means no personal biases. There has to be complete objectivity in the investigation. Theoretical orientation, theory should be there. Testing means whatever you have made theory, that has to be testable. Now what we need to see is, we explain what is science, we have discussed the conditions for science. Now we need to talk about the arguments in favor for sociology being science. So let's take one by one and we will discuss the arguments in favor. When you talk about inter-subject reliability, sociology is showing considerable amount of inter-subject reliability. For example, when you see the elements that we study in sociology, for example, family. Family is having the same meaning for all, in all subjects. If you talk about political science or public administration, or for that matter any subject, if you take, family have the same meaning, religion have the same meaning. So I'm not saying complete inter-subject reliability. What I can say, sociology is having considerable amount of inter-subject reliability. So one point is done. Secondly, quantifiability, the scope of sociology. So scope of sociology is defined clearly. You can see yesterday when we discussed about scope of sociology, I've told you, according to Emile Durkheim, it is study of social facts. According to Max Weber, it is study of social action. And once we discuss more about Durkheim, you will understand that Durkheim even trying to quantify the extreme abstract forms of social facts. You may not understand these words now, but you will get it later, okay, once we're done with the thing course. So the point which I want to tell you is, there is again, the scope of the subject is defined clearly. Objectivity, here this is a big problem. You cannot ensure complete objectivity in sociology because you are dealing with human being. In case of natural science, that's not the case. But in sociology, we are trying to ensure whatever possible. That means to what extent we can ensure objectivity. We are doing that with the help of a trained investigator, with the use of different methods, scientific methods, etc. So the point here is, absolute objectivity may not be possible and is not desirable also in sociology. Why it is not desirable? I will tell you now. Okay, it is not desirable and it is not possible, but we try to ensure maximum possible objectivity by using proper methods, trained investigator, etc. So 3 points, we got arguments in favor. Theoretical orientation, you're going to study a lot of theories. Marx, you're going to study 3 theory, Durkheim 3-4 theories, Weber 3 theory, Parson 3 theory, Merton 2-3 theories, Mead. So you can write any of these as example. Marx theory of historical materialism, Marx theory of class struggle, Marx theory of alienation, Durkheim theory of division of labor, Durkheim theory of religion, Durkheim theory of suicide, Max Weber theory of Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism, social action, social system, reference groups. So many theories are there. So there is no problem for you to write this particular point. And testing, the entire society is a testing ground for sociologists. So these are the arguments in favor of sociology which you can write. This is again very simple. So what we discussed, I discussed the context, and then I've discussed what is science. Then I've discussed the traditional as well as modern understanding of science. Then we have discussed the 4 conditions of science, and then we discussed arguments in favor. Arguments against, we don't want to discuss too much, maybe 1 or 2 points you can say, like absolute objectivity, which is desirable in natural science, is not possible in sociology. First point you can write. Theory, even though you're talking about many theories which is made by sociologists, but none of them are universally applicable. Most of the theories are questioned, most of the theories are challenged, and they were not able to replicate. So much of criticism is there for each and every theory. So these are the negatives, arguments against. Now what you need to focus more on is your conclusion. So in conclusion, if you see, yesterday also we have written a conclusion which is framed very diplomatically, exactly in the same way. Here we use the thinker Weber. So the conclusion goes like this. Okay, so just understand, reproduce the same, don't want to add anything from your side, try to reproduce exactly the same that I'm discussing here. Sociology is a science. Okay, that is a conclusion. But it is not similar to natural science. If you ask me whether it is similar to natural science, it is not similar to natural science. But it is a science in itself. Why? Because sociology study its subject matter by using scientific methods, proper perspectives, based on logic, based on evidence, rationality, etc. So, sociology is a science. But if you ask me whether it is natural science or not, it is not similar to natural science, but it is a science in itself. And we can call it a social science. So, sociology is a social science. Why? Because the method of inquiry is scientific, not subjective. The method of inquiry is scientific. And you can use this thinker Weber. What Weber says is, he delineated the subject matter of natural science and social science. In case of natural science, like physics, chemistry, biology, you are studying the matter which do not have any consciousness. So when you're studying the matter which do not have any consciousness, you can easily predict the behavior. And you can establish the cause and effect relationship very easily, and which is testable, which can replicate. See, if I tell you, or if I ask you what will happen if the water is boiled at 100 degrees Celsius, all of you will tell the same answer. Similarly, if I ask you what will happen with the water if you freeze it at freezing point, you will all tell the same. Why? Because natural science, dealing with matter, no consciousness, the behavior. Can you predict or not? You can predict the behavior. How it behaves, you can predict easily in terms of cause and effect. Okay, you can predict easily, objectively, and that will be testable, that you can replicate. You boil it now, you boil it tomorrow, you boil it any day, anytime, anywhere, the same result will come. But in case of social science, you are dealing with human beings. I'm not writing completely. So here you are dealing with matter, here you are dealing with human being. So human being have consciousness, here no consciousness, here consciousness. The behavior cannot be predicted easily in terms of cause and effect relationship. So can you predict? No. So that is actually the limitation. So the point here is, according to Weber, natural science deals with matter whose behavior can be predicted in terms of cause and effect relationship objectively, as they do not have consciousness. But in case of sociology or social science, it is dealing with the ultimate reducible element that you're dealing with is actually the human being whose behavior cannot be predicted, and because human beings have their own consciousness. The way you behave now and the way you behave in different day in the similar situation may be different, right? So it is not predictable. So that is actually the problem. So what is the conclusion? If you ask me whether it is similar to natural science or not, no, it is not similar to natural science, but sociology is a science. Why we can call it a science? See, if you're following this concept, empiricism and inductivism, this was the initial approach, right? If you explain in terms of this, then sociology is not science, because We are not going to study the empirical reality. Mostly we study the internal aspects like meanings, motives, emotions. So empiricism will not classify. Inductive approach, no. In sociology, mostly we follow deductive approach. We make the hypothesis first and then we conduct the investigation. So if science is based on this two, empiricism, inductivism, sociology is not science. But later I have discussed that science is based on method of inquiry rather than body of knowledge. Later on, science was understood more in terms of method of inquiry rather than body of knowledge. In that context, we can consider sociology as science. So I repeat what I have discussed. We have discussed about the context. What is the context? Sociology emerged. You can write that line that we have discussed. What initial sociologists did, we can discuss the scope widened. Initial sociologists wanted to make it similar to natural science, so they used methods directly from natural science. Okay, and this question was arised at that point of time regarding the possibility of using the scientific methods in sociology. So that is actually the debate. And then you can talk about what is science. Science, earlier what was science? It was based on the ideals of empiricism, inductivism. Later science is understood more in terms of method of inquiry rather than body of knowledge. And then some conditions like inter-subject reliability, quantifiability, objectivity, theoretical orientation and testing. So these conditions you need to explain, and then you write the arguments in favor of sociology being science. There is a considerable amount of inter-subject reliability. Quantifiability, the scope is defined very clearly. Objectivity, you will try to ensure objectivity with the proper training, proper use of methods, etc. There are so many theories and the entire society is a testing ground. Arguments against, you can write absolute objectivity is not possible because you are dealing with human beings. Theory, although there are theories, but there are obvious limitations. Testability also, there are limitations. See, like family, marriage, etc. How can you go and test these things? It is not possible. So the conclusion, sociology is a science, no doubt in that, but it's not a science similar to natural science. It's a science in itself, and we call it a social science. Okay, you can also write Weber. According to Weber, the basic subject matter of natural science and social science is different. Natural science dealing with matter which do not have consciousness, whose behavior can be predicted easily in terms of cause and effect relationship, whereas social science is dealing with human beings whose behavior cannot be predicted easily in terms of cause and effect relationship, as they have their own consciousness and the way they behave cannot be predicted. So that is a basic difference. So we'll go for the PDF now. Once we discuss the PDF, I can take up the doubts, I can clear that. By discussing this PDF, I'm sure that all the doubts will be over. In case if you have any, I don't think that you need to have any doubts here. Exactly what I've told you, you just reproduce. That's it for this particular question. These are the questions which are asked. Sociology emerged as a scientific discipline. Discuss a statement in the light of debate whether sociology is a science or not. Give arguments for and against sociology being scientific discipline. That's what we have discussed. Is sociology a science? Again, all these you need to write the same answer. Sociology emerged as distinct discipline in response to challenges posed before modernity in medieval Europe. This is what you need to write. I've told you. So emergence of sociology, okay, in response to challenges posed before modernity, medieval Europe, everything is there. The orientation of initial sociologists was to develop sociology on the line similar to natural sciences. The scientific revolution in the field of astronomy, medical science, physics and biology led intellectuals to dream of a discipline which could generate similar universal laws of social organization. Saint Simon even dreamt of social physics. Auguste Comte, the founding father of sociology, claimed to have developed universal laws of social organization. Okay. Similarly, Herbert Spencer's organismic analogy, we have discussed yesterday how he compared society with organism, was guided by the same assumptions. As sociology developed, questions were raised on the possibility of employing basic assumptions of natural sciences in sociology. Objections were raised on the validity of the universal law developed by the initial sociologist. This initiated a debate on the nature of sociology, that is, whether sociology is a science or not. The roots of this debate are located in the basic understanding of the term science. During 19th century, the conception of science mainly drew from natural sciences. The body of knowledge was considered as science only if it yields universal laws and conforms to the ideals of empiricism and inductivism. Subsequently, with the intellectual development, the conception of science underwent a change. Gradually, science came to be understood more in terms of method of inquiry rather than body of knowledge. This is the most important sentence. So, over a period of time, science understood more in terms of the way you study, okay, not what you study. So, here if you see empiricism and inductivism, now method of inquiry. Science has been defined as any systematic study based on evidence and reason. So, if the investigations are conducted in a reasoned manner, so that's what written here. It assumes that if the explanations are given in a logical, scientific, or reasoned manner, they must be considered as scientific. So, these are the conditions: intersubject reliability, objectivity, quantifiability, and theoretical orientation, and also testing. So, what is intersubject reliability? It means that the concepts framed by any body of knowledge should have the same meaning for different people. Across subjects, that is, a concept should be defined precisely. Objectivity, there should be possibility of undertaking investigation without any personal bias or preconception. I hope it is clear. We will discuss this actually next topic, objectivity. Quantifiability, it should be possible to observe things in a quantifiable manner. That means the scope of the subject matter should be defined very clearly. Theoretical orientation, the body of knowledge must be capable of generating theories, and the mere collection of facts cannot be called as science. There must be a possibility of generalization and also testability. Testing, that point also you can write. Now, arguments in favor. We will start with, as a body of knowledge, sociology is considered as a scientific discipline on the basis of following arguments. There is a considerable amount of intersubject reliability in the concepts framed by sociology. The concepts like family, religion, groups, etc. are defined precisely and have the same meaning for all. Okay, any doubt here? No need. Social objects or phenomena can be observed in a concrete form through proper description using case studies. Various phenomena like social groups, social institutions have been quantified clearly. Emile Durkheim, while defining the scope of sociology, tried to quantify even the extreme abstract forms of social facts in his theory of social fact. This we will discuss more in detail when we discuss about this theory, social facts. Yesterday also I have told you social facts is something which we are going to discuss in future. Okay. Third point is actually the third point related to objectivity. Although absolute objectivity is not possible in sociology, but sociology has ensured objectivity by using proper methods and training of the investigator. Then sociology has developed theories. You can write so many examples here which have considerable applicability in number of situations. Although there is an apprehension regarding the success of universal theories, still the subject matter of sociology is capable of yielding some theories. Like you are going to study so many theories. These are the same theories only I have written here: Durkheim's theory, Marx theory, Weber's theory, Mead's theory, Parsons theory, Merton theory. You can write any theories as you need. Sociology uses methods, and the whole society is a testing ground for sociologists. Thus, sociology witnessed a large number of similar situations in which the theories can be tested. Now what we need? Arguments against, or the limitations of sociology being science or as science. In terms of sociology being similar to natural science, there may be a number of limitations like empirical testability and universal theories. Absolute objectivity as desirable in natural science is not possible in sociology. At times there are obvious limitations on experimentation in sociology. See, testability in sociology is a problem. Like you cannot do the testing in labs like you can do in case of chemistry, physics and biology, right? You may say that the entire society is testing ground, but is it possible? No, right? So universal theories are again questioned. Objectivity is again a big problem because personal bias will come because the human being is studying another human being, so obviously this personal bias will be there. Apart from this, sociological investigations sometimes generate controversies related to vagueness in concept, variations in social phenomena, unpredictable nature of human beings, etc. Now what should be the conclusion? So the same what I have told you, write exactly the same. Don't add anything to it. Don't remove anything from this. Just write this. Whatever I have underlined, just write this and this. These 3 points has to be there in your conclusion. You don't write any other things, it doesn't matter. But these 3 points has to be there in your conclusion. In this context, it is acknowledged that sociology is not a science similar to natural science, but it is a science in itself. And what is the difference? The difference in the nature of sociology is drawn from its basic subject matter. What is that? The ultimate reducible element of which is an individual. And you need to quote exactly the same Max Weber. According to Max Weber, natural science study matter, which is not having any consciousness, and the behavior can be predicted in terms of cause and effect. On the other hand, sociology studies human beings, the behavior of which cannot be predicted, and thus exact laws are not possible. According to him, sociology is a scientific discipline as it can study subject by using scientific methodology. One more you can write here. Thus, sociology is a social science. Moreover, famous statement by Karl Popper, either this or this, you can write. This is basically talking about the first point that we have discussed in the beginning. So that's substantiated. Famous statement by Karl Popper further proves sociology to be scientific discipline. What he says is, so science is not a body of knowledge, but method of studying a phenomena. This is what actually you have written here, no? So that's why that will substantiate. So you have written here that gradually science came to be understood more in terms of method of inquiry rather than body of knowledge. Exactly the same method of inquiry and not a body of knowledge. Science is not a body of knowledge but a method of inquiry, method of studying a phenomena. So exactly the same. So if this is the case, then sociology is studying objectively, scientifically, rationally, based on logic and evidence and reason. So you can call sociology as science. But problem is not the problem, but the fact is it is not similar to natural science. So this has to be your conclusion, and this question is over. Yeah, tell me, Puneet, what is your doubt? Any doubts we can discuss now?
Sir, could you please repeat that inter-subject reliability example once more?
Inter-subject reliability means what? Have you understood what is inter-subject reliability? What do you mean by inter-college cricket match? Between colleges, there will be match, right? Inter-collegiate festivals between colleges, right? So that means here I am talking about inter-subject, different subjects. There should be there should be reliability. Reliability means it should be same across subjects. So the meaning should be same across subjects. So when you talk about oxygen, I am talking about that. You're talking about that. In any context, it is the same. Water, it is same, right? Similarly, in case of sociology, we are saying when we talk about family, it is the same for all. Religion, it is the same for all. So the subject matter of sociology is having considerable inter-subject reliability.
Okay, sir. Okay.
What is your name?
Varsha.
Okay. The other points, any doubt? Quantifiability means scope. Scope has to be defined. Okay. And then objectivity, personal bias should not be there. Objectivity also we will discuss maybe day after tomorrow. No, everything is actually within the scope of sociology. So things are actually easy, no? Everything yesterday what we have discussed, the scope is gradually widening and it is permeating through each and every aspect. So clinical sociology, criminal sociology. So yeah, the scope is actually widening, obviously. So everything is actually coming in sociology now. Industrial sociology. Okay. So in that context, you may say that the scope is not defined perfectly also. But still, we are not saying completely defined. We are not saying completely inter-subject reliability. What we are saying, there is a considerable amount of inter-subject reliability. In case of scope, what I have told you, even try to, quantify extreme abstract forms of social facts. Try to, not complete. So in social science, you cannot write anything like that, complete, 100%. Right? For example, in economy, when you talk about if there is inflation, what to do? Repo, increase or decrease? Will increase. Okay. So repo will increase. Can you control inflation? If inflation is there, what you will do? Repo will increase. Why repo is increasing? Because repo is increasing means money supply will come down. Money supply come down means what will happen? The purchasing power will come down. When purchasing power will come down means demand will come down. So the price will come down. So when inflation is high, this is what you do. But what will happen? Money supply will come down. So the investment will come down. Investment will come down means what will happen? The production will come down. That means supply in market will come down. So supply is reduced means what will happen? Cost push, inflation will increase. Here what you can control? Demand pull inflation you may control, it will reduce because you are controlling money supply, you can do that. But on the other side there is a possibility of cost push inflation. So if the question is about can you control inflation by increasing repo, you cannot. Simple. Or you may or may not be able to. What you can control is only demand. So that is a problem with social sciences. There is nothing 100%. I hope you understood this. Objectivity is not possible, that's what I am saying. We are trying to ensure maximum possible objectivity by using some methods. Objectivity is obviously there is a limitation. We cannot ensure objectivity. Please talk. Don't message. Now I am free. You can turn on your mic and talk. Reading is very difficult. This is a 5th class in this day. So for me, it's this is the last session. So I'll get totally exhausted. And reading, the eyes not working properly. So please talk. That will be better. Okay, if you don't have any doubts, we can stop here. So tomorrow, no class.